The moment the classroom air tightened, everyone felt it, like a sudden storm rolling in through open windows on a bright school day. Sunlight poured across the desks, dust floating gently when two shadows leaned over the quietest girl in the room and hands closed around her throat. The scrape of a chair, the sharp intake of breath, the shock that froze 20 students in place, all of it happened in the space of a heartbeat. What no one expected, not even the bullies themselves, was that the girl they thought would disappear would instead become the moment the room would never forget. If you believe stories like this matter, if you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Acts of Kindness. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that need them most. Mireia Solis had always existed in the background of daylight. She walked the halls while the sun poured through high windows, her footsteps careful, her shoulders slightly curved inward, as if she were apologizing for taking up space. Teachers knew her as the student who turned in perfect assignments and never raised her hand. Classmates knew her as the girl who ate lunch near the windows and stared outside like the world beyond the fence mattered more than the one inside. No one really knew her story, and that was how Mireia preferred it. Quiet was safer. Quiet did not invite attention. Quiet did not get you hurt. The school itself felt louder during the day, with bells echoing and lockers slamming, laughter ricocheting down the corridors. Mireia navigated it like someone crossing a busy street without traffic lights. She kept her eyes down, her backpack close, her breaths shallow. It had not always been this way. Once, years ago, she had laughed freely, running under a sun that felt warm instead of exposing. But life had a way of teaching lessons early, and hers had taught her that being noticed often came with a price. The boys who sat 2 rows behind her thrived on daylight cruelty. Rylan Crow and Kasim Holt were the kind of students teachers described as restless but harmless, the kind who smiled politely when corrected and then laughed once backs were turned. They noticed Mireia because she did not fight back, because she did not complain, because her silence felt like permission. It started with whispers and notes shoved into her desk, escalated to tripping her in the hallway, flicking her books onto the floor. Each time the sun shone, and each time Mireia told herself to endure just a little longer. That morning felt ordinary. The windows were open, birds calling from somewhere outside, the teacher writing notes on the board in steady chalk lines. Mireia copied every word, her handwriting neat, her focus sharp. She was thinking about getting home before sunset, about the smell of laundry soap and the quiet comfort of familiar walls. She did not see the boys stand. She did not hear their footsteps until the desk beside her scraped loudly. The first hand closed around her throat as if testing something fragile. The second followed, rougher, heavier. The room froze. Daylight spilled across Mireia's vision, blurring at the edges as her lungs fought for air. Panic surged, sharp and overwhelming, but beneath it something older stirred. A memory surfaced, uninvited and powerful. A voice from years ago, calm and firm, reminding her that the body remembers what the mind tries to forget. Mireia's hands moved before her fear could stop them. There was no rage on her face, no scream, no plea, only focus, only survival. Her wrists turned, her grip precise, her strength drawn from somewhere deep and steady. In a movement so fast it felt unreal, she redirected their force back on them. The sound that followed was not loud, but it was unmistakable. Pain replaced cruelty in their eyes. Control vanished from their hands. They staggered backward, clutching themselves, stunned and humiliated under the same bright sun that had always protected them. Desks tipped. A gasp rippled through the room. Mireia stood, shaking now, air flooding back into her lungs in ragged waves. Her face was pale, her hands trembling, but she did not run. She did not collapse. She simply stood there, eyes lifted for the first time, meeting the stunned faces around her. The teacher shouted, students scrambled, and within minutes administrators rushed in, voices urgent, questions flying. Through it all, Mireia felt oddly calm, as if the storm inside her had finally broken and left clear skies behind. The hallway outside the classroom buzzed with daylight chaos. Mireia sat on a bench, her hands folded tightly in her lap. She expected anger, punishment. She expected to be blamed for defending herself. Years of silence had taught her that standing up often came with consequences. But as the principal listened, as witnesses spoke up, voices trembling at first, then stronger, something shifted. Students who had never spoken for her before described what they had seen, how it started, how it ended, how long it had been happening. For the first time, Mireia was not invisible. The nurse examined her neck, gentle and concerned, the marks already blooming under the bright lights. Counselors asked questions softly, offering water, offering space. Mireia answered honestly, her voice quiet but steady. She talked about fear, about endurance, about choosing silence because it felt safer than conflict. She talked about the training she once received from a relative who believed knowledge was protection, not violence. She talked about the moment she realized silence would not save her. News traveled fast in daylight. By lunch, the story had spread beyond the classroom, twisted and retold, but at its core remained the truth. The quiet girl fought back. The bullies were stopped. Some students looked at Mireia with awe, others with guilt, a few with gratitude. Teachers walked the halls more carefully that afternoon, eyes sharper, listening harder. Rylan and Kasim were suspended pending investigation. Their confidence evaporated as quickly as it had formed. For the first time, consequences followed them into the sunlight. Their parents arrived angry, then quiet as details emerged. It was not a victory that felt triumphant. It was one that felt heavy and necessary. Mireia went home early that day. The sun was still high as she walked, its warmth different now, less exposing, more comforting. Each step felt uncertain, but also lighter. At home, she sat by the window, fingers tracing the faint marks on her neck, thinking about how close she had come to disappearing into herself forever. She thought about how fear had shaped her, how silence had kept her small. And she thought about how strength had been there all along, waiting for permission to exist. The days that followed were not easy. Attention replaced invisibility, and that brought its own discomfort. Some students avoided her. Others smiled awkwardly. A few stopped to say thank you, their voices earnest, admitting they had been scared too. Teachers checked in, counselors offered support, and policies were reviewed. Change did not arrive overnight, but it arrived. Mireia began to sit differently in class. Her shoulders relaxed, her eyes lifted. She still preferred quiet, still found comfort in solitude, but it was no longer born of fear. It was chosen. Daytime no longer felt like a spotlight. It felt like space. One afternoon, sunlight streamed through the library windows as Mireia helped another student pick up dropped books. It was a small moment, almost forgettable, but it carried weight. Kindness did not always roar. Sometimes it whispered. Sometimes it looked like survival becoming compassion. The story did not turn Mireia into someone loud or aggressive. It did not erase her gentleness. It revealed her resilience. It reminded everyone watching that strength does not always announce itself, and that the quietest people often carry the deepest power. As the school year moved forward, conversations changed. Bullying was addressed more openly. Students learned that silence could be broken, that help could be asked for, that standing up did not make you cruel, it made you human. Mireia still walked home in the daylight, but now she noticed the warmth on her skin, the sound of birds, the rhythm of her own breath. She understood something she had not before. Survival was not the end of the story. Living was. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own strength or someone you wish you had protected, please take a moment to engage with this video. Your likes, shares, and comments help these messages reach those who feel alone. Before the ending, we have one special request. Please comment below with a word or sentence about what this story made you feel or who it reminded you of. The sun set that evening as it always did. But for Mireia Solis, daylight would never feel the same again, not as something to fear, but as proof that even the quietest lives can change the world when pushed to the edge and choosing courage instead of silence.